more people complaining about how we test motorcycles. They nailed it. That motor in the beta is frankly, I spent a lot of years racing a KTM 200 and I had KDX 200s and I love 200s. I always tried to get my bike to run exactly the way the beta comes box stock. They nailed the power band on that, at least for me. Every bike, if you search enough, you will find they have issues. Okay, welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday for the second time. Maybe, just maybe, there is sound now. So, yeah, my computer, it was too good to be true. It really was. So this is the, I don't know how many episode of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Got a little bit to talk about tonight, maybe a lot to talk about. This is the show where we talk about motorcycle-related products. Sorry to all of you thousands and thousands of viewers that jumped on to the very beginning of the first live show that didn't have any sound, but you're getting what you pay for. My name is Jimmy Lewis. I'm a washed-up ex-motorcycle racer. Sometimes I pretend like I'm a journalist. Other times I just go ride my dirt bike around. Years of experience to help you answer your motorcycle and motorcycle product related questions. Tonight is Tech Talk Tamale. No, not tamale. I had tostadas. Tostada Tuesday. And I got something for you Canadians too, coming up a little bit later in the show. Maybe I shouldn't wait though. Maybe I should just do the thing right away. So anyways, throw your questions up in the chat. If you have questions, anything you just want us to talk about, discuss. There's some news going around. I thought I would try to answer some of the news questions that what I know about and what I don't know about. Some talk of new bikes. There's always talks of where the industry is. You might have heard that some companies in the industry are having a very hard time. And other than that, hopefully I can keep this thing running as we see it. So I'm going to have to open up a couple more windows here. Hopefully it doesn't make my computer crash. And yeah, it looks like it's almost working. So, okay. Today, well, I'll get to the Canadian thing here. So a good, becoming a friend of mine, brought me this from Canada. It was full. And he told me what you're supposed to do with it. So this one, you're supposed to take this and then you put a little bit of this in it, just enough to change the color is what I heard. So I'm going to go ahead and do this at this moment. Mark, yeah, the sound, we fixed the sound. Sorry for the first jump start. So this is a little bit of Gibson's, put a little bit of that inside of there. And then a little bit of this in here. And like they said, just enough to change the color is what I'm told. So it's not like a real rum. That's enough to change the color. There we go. So that's how you do it in Canada, eh? They must know, because if I lived underground, I'd probably be drinking a lot more of these. But yeah, good on you for joining in. And I almost spilt that one, so here we go. Pretty tasty. So Kawasaki put out a video with a two-stroke noise in it. And the sound on that video, no other information was released. It just was the sound of what sounded like a KX500. It was definitely a big bore two-stroke. And so if you haven't heard that, just search Kawasaki two-stroke and that will come up. It'll sound better than this show, that's for sure. So everybody says, well, what are they doing? And the answer is, I'm pretty sure it's a preemptive strike. So don't be surprised if you decide you want to kick the competition when it's down. So the one of the other brands that makes two strokes, KTM, is obviously going through some financial stuff. It's a lot worse than what was originally anticipated. I'm going to try to talk to somebody tomorrow. I've asked a few times about what's going on, and some people told me some things, but they didn't really know. And some other people, they knew some things, but it didn't line up. And I'll probably try to talk to somebody because KTM, the way they have that business structured, it's a lot of different businesses, and who owns what and how it's all played together probably is a bigger role than what's going. But they're kind of on a pause right now. They're doing a lot of restructuring. They have somebody else that's in there running it, and it's kind of being there's a lot of oversight, and now the creditors are kind of coming back in, and you see a lot of stuff on social media. Take that with a grain of salt. So, that's where we're at. So Tony, I do not know if the Kawasaki is a 300. To me, it sounded like a KX500 the sound was very distinctly KX500. The only official statement they said is we have a 2-stroke in development. So some of the rumors I've heard are they're trying to bring back some updated mini bikes, and they're also going to bring a larger displacement competition bike. Now what that is, I don't know. So I'm sure as it gets closer, they'll release a little bit more information. Hopefully it's not going to be, like Triumph, where they just show a bunch of these blacked out pictures that, it's like, oh, this is coming, and you kind of hear about it. I haven't really heard from any development riders or any of the guys that I know about this. So they've kept it under wraps. It was kind of a surprise. But like I said, I think it's one of those things. It's like, they're just signaling like, hey, maybe if you've got your money in your pocket to buy something else, maybe you might just want to wait. That's my guess. So I have that for what it's worth. So Dimitri Azazello. I think I got it right. Has a question. How is it that so many amateurs had issues with crankcase pressure sensors failing and messing up fueling on TPI bikes, but I've not heard of any pros getting a DF or poor race results because of that? Do they just pop in a new sensor for every race? I've had 3 fail, and all 3 would likely result in a DNF if it were in a race. So, Dimitri, I don't know. I've never had one fail either. And I used to be a pro, but I trail ride my bike. And so I'm kind of curious with your situation. When it fails, and I understand they start running really crappy and they don't work very good. Did you just pop one? Did you just know what it was and pop a new one in, and then it fixed the problem? Allegedly, fixed the problem, because if it's happened 3 times, I don't think the crankcase pressure sensor is the problem. Maybe something else is causing the problem. So my question and it's not just you, it's everybody. I go, so what else is done to the bike? What else have you done to modify, to change, to hop up that particular bike that could be causing those? Because no, I don't really see the pros having those problems. And I know some of the problems with the pressure sensor were not actually the pressure sensor. It was the hose that was going to the pressure sensor was getting gummed up and clogged on guys that were doing really, let's say they weren't using the bike to its potential. In other words, they weren't really revving it out that often. So there was a lot of, we'll call it, kind of buildup that was able to work its way into the hose where the pressure sensor was. So, and I know on the newer ones, and so I'm not sure what year you're talking about. I know they've improved some of the stuff on the newer bikes to make it so it's less of an issue. And yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I will tell you that the pros, whatever they're running, the ones we're calling the pros, and these would be extreme enduro guys, they're running bikes that are very well set up, and they're tested. They test whatever they're going to race with to a level that they make sure that it's not going to fail. And a lot of times those are probably a lot more stock than what you would think. And there's a lot of stuff out in the aftermarket that they don't play well together. So I know a lot of guys, they were having problems with throttle position sensors. This was even back to the original fuel injected bikes. Lots of TPS, throttle position sensor things, and you started noticing like the guys that had the problems were the guys that actually, oh, I took it and I calibrated mine, or I did this and I did that. And before I even did, the guys that never touched them, I mean, I've got probably, I know I have more than 20 bikes I've never had a throttle position sensor go bad. I've never had a problem with one, but I don't mess with them. So I have a thing that tests them, and I have tested them to check them, and they always check out good. So he's saying yes every time, a new sensor, all good, and nothing else. So my next question is, what modifications have you done to the bike? Because that could be an issue. And then the other question is are you riding it at low RPMs quite a bit? And then, man, I've seen guys do all these crazy warm-up rituals and routines that when I watch it, I'm like, you're loading your bike up. And so that could be an issue. I've heard of people, oh, I'm mixing a little bit of oil in my gas, and that's adding extra stuff, So there's all these other things. And I have a 300. I have a 19 300, has a lot of hours on it. I need to put a piston in it right now, but somebody wants to go riding tomorrow, and I might just throw it in the truck. So there's a lot of stuff usually kind of leads to the to the problems going on. So, and since you're on Facebook, I know that there's a little bit of a delay in how long it takes to get this to get the feed going forward. So, okay. Back to the, what was the other thing we were talking about? Oh, the show would not be possible without the help of some fine sponsors. There's two main ones right now. Yamaha, of course, has been a longtime supporter of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I'm riding a fair amount of Yamahas. I rode my WR around just a little bit today. Just a little. I wanted to go ride my Husaberg 650, but like not this computer that wouldn't make sound about 10 minutes ago that wants to do all kinds of crazy updates, and that's why it took a little while to jumpstart this show. I had to work on my other computer today, so lots of computer stuff going on. But I did put a new carburetor in my Honda Rancher 4x4 today. A carburetor I got for $26 on Amazon. I got a carburetor, an air filter, a spark plug, a fuel filter that didn't fit for $26. Incredible. I have no idea how they can do that kind of stuff. And that's not even with the 10% tariff that's supposed to come on the Chinese stuff. So who knows where this thing was actually made, but it was an exact replica knockoff. Well, who knows it was a knockoff? Who knows what Honda's actually putting on that thing to start with? But it was a very good replica. Put it on there, pushed the button, started right up, ran exactly like it used to 7 or 8 months ago when it finally, I don't actually know. I don't remember why it stopped running. I think the carburetor just slowly started plugging up and gumming up. So, yeah. So still no answer from Dimitri. Back to the other subject. So we don't know what the Kawasaki two-stroke is. We don't know the dire straits of KTM's financial woes. I'm working on that. I'm going to go to the AIM Expo, the American International Motorcycle Show in Vegas tomorrow. I'm going to go there and try to talk to some people and learn about some things. So if you're there, if you are displaying or want to talk to us, let me know. I'm going to go there and tell people what we're going to do in the future, and see if we can get some support behind us so we can do more of this, or I will just tell Trevor to do it all on his own. And the next thing that I needed to do was to go over to our YouTube channel. So when you're watching this show and you're watching some of our videos, if you ask questions on those videos, typically we take those questions and answer them here live on the show so that you're able to get the answers, because there's no way that we could go through and answer each one of those things kind of individually over time. So Travis Mahoney says, yeah. Did you listen to the first part of the show, Travis? Nope. That's exactly what we talked about. So it sounded a lot like a KX500 to me, and I have a lot of experience listening to KX500s. In fact, on my Facebook page, I somebody put a picture from a Commotion by the Ocean race at Carlsbad back in, oh boy, I forget what year it was, 2004, something like that, where I actually am pulling the whole shot over Ryan Hughes on a KX500. So I used to race that thing at Carlsbad all the time. That was a great bike for that. Threw the question up. Road Racer 3 says, any thought on Cody Webb's KOM bike build? No, because I haven't investigated Cody Webb's KOM bike build just yet. Where do I see that? It's not like it just showed up here. And if it was on social media, I guess I missed it. But Cody Webb now riding Blue Crew. He's riding Yamaha. He's riding for a Rocky Mountain ATV MC. He's kind of got his own team thing going. That's pretty good. If you want to support this show, you can click through our links on Dirt Bike Test. Go to Dirt Bike Test, hit the support us button, use the Amazon or the Rocky Mountain links when you're going to buy stuff, and we get a small chunk of that. It helps make it so the microphones work when we start the show. Yeah, and JB Black says back to back. So what Jerry's talking about. This weekend, I attended the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame induction for new inductees. It was at Gene Woods Racing Experience down on Fremont Street in Las Vegas. A good time. I went there specifically to race the go-karts because, I went there because I knew I was going to see some friends, which I did, which was awesome. And luckily, I got with no practice, even though they now I know the whole story, but they're really egging me on to come practice a lot because last year I won. There's a plaque up here on the wall someplace that let me see where it is. Maybe it's down someplace. I don't know. I had a plaque from last year from winning the go-kart race, so I felt like I'd like to beat a bunch of other old dudes on go-karts, and I did. It was all luck as usual. So here's my Hot Shoe Hall of Fame little plaque that I got for dominating some old guys. So I'm the champion of champions in the go-karts, 2 years, the 2025 overall winner. So pretty stoked about that. I actually was I pretended like it was Glen Helen on a Thursday because it turns into bumper carts out there. And it's actually slick tracks. These things don't have a whole lot of power, but they get sideways. If you just step on the pedal, it doesn't really go forward that fast. You kind of have to milk it because it'll spin up. Polished concrete, hard tires, and an 18-second lap time if you're fast. Most people were doing like 20 seconds. So, back to that. Got to see my good buddy Ron Lawson. Get inducted into the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame. He was there with a good friend of mine, Gary Jones, motocross national champion Gary Jones, but just an all-around great motorcycle ambassador. Was there, got to see Gary, got to see Ty Davis. Haven't seen Ty for a long time. In fact, the last time I saw Ty in person, he was riding around on a Husky dual sport bike, like a 630 out at some bomb run. And his kid was on the back, and his kid was all of about 2 feet tall. So that's Yeah, that's that was it's been a long time, but I've seen Ty, poking around at the races. He's got his kid racing all the time. He actually was out at King of the Motos too, and he beat Jeremy McGrath in the Jeremy McGrath hole shot race. So, which is another kind of thing they added on. They did some more motorcycle stuff out there, allegedly. I was not there. I forgot how to get there, I think, is what happened. But so anyways, Hot Shoe Hall of Fame, they kind of dedicated it to Malcolm Smith. This is a lifetime achievement. That goes without saying. Unfortunately, Malcolm had passed away, but that was really cool. Bubba Schobert, flat tracker, Bubba Schobert, road race winner, Bubba Schobert was there. I slammed Bubba Schobert a couple times in the go-kart race, which is fun. And so yeah, had a good evening, and then at the very end of the night, they had a big special award that they were going to give out, and it's called the Zeke. And I was honored to get this, and it's it recognizes my selfless and unwavering dedication to the motorcycle industry. So thank you, Gene and Jerry and all the guys that do that, it's pretty cool. So Howie is the guy that this is named after. He runs a speedway website and does a lot of speedway coverage and really gives back. They gave it to him last year and named it after him, which is really cool. And so I get to be the second recipient of this. So I know what that means. Zekwe. I'm getting connected. Zekwe. Okay. You should have put it phonetic on the design too, so I could say it right. Like I know how to do everybody's name. Anyhow, yeah, super honored to get that. That's cool, and it just means I don't charge enough. That's because if I charge enough, then people wouldn't want to give me an award for doing this. Okay, so back to the questions real quick. Dirt Bike says KTM 525 EXC. I have one for sale if you want to buy it. The bike is a bit tough to start. It will run decent when it gets hot, but it'll quit running and will puff a bit of white smoke from the motor, and won't start again till it's cooled. Okay. How are you seeing the puff of white smoke? Or does it smoke for a while and then stops running? So I'm just going to kind of break down a couple of things. I'm going to bet that it's going to be ignition related. It's going to be something in your stator or something in your pulsar exciter windings. The cheaper and easier thing to replace is that exciter coil inside of your ignition. The 525s were notorious for running a little bit hot. And when they get hot and then they cool back down, that's typically an electrical issue. The white smoke I don't know about. But if it is making white smoke, that's usually steam. And maybe you have a head gasket leak or something like that that's getting enough water in there. When it gets hot, it pressurizes, it blows into the combustion chamber. And then it might do something to there's water and steam in your engine, not gas. So those are my two things. It smells a bit like cool, and I'm going to the second line here. I think the starter Bendix is going bad too because it gets stuck and requires using the Kickstarter to move the gears forward, and then it'll turn over. Okay. Yeah. Well, this bike's 25 years old. So 20 years old, actually. So use caution. And here we go. So if you're smelling coolant, then it is the second thing. It's probably leaking out of the head gasket. But I'm going to warn you that if your starter Bendix, it's a what's the name of that? It's a sprag gear that's on the crankshaft inside of the clutch side cover is where that gear winds its way through, how it's doing this. Don't ride it anymore, because when that thing blows up, it's going to be really expensive. You need to replace that gear. And if it's winding, one of those little, and they're not, it's like a bearing, but they're not round. And then there's a spring that runs around the outside of it. So that spring, or two springs, I don't remember on that one if it's a single spring or double spring, that spring has failed. And so now it's allowing those little bearings to kind of jiggle. And if they get worn, which is what the squeaking noise is, that's wearing while it's making that noise, one of them is going to lodge in there and it's going to lock the whole thing up. And then the gears try to explode. So, yeah, it sounds like that thing needs a big rebuild. Somebody to go through that thing and take care of it. So here we go. Yeah, but the white smoke indicates coolant. So, okay. Mark Daniels says Rottweiler did some custom hubs for the Web T7. Haven't seen that. I have some custom W wheels on my T7 that I'm really happy with. So yeah, it's I'll bet you for Cody, because he's going to be riding it off road. I'll bet you they took a standard hub and turned it down and took the one disc rotor off, so he went to a single disc. I can see for off road that's a lot better. For just pure off road, I like that whole bike, the Tenere T7. Yamaha does sponsor this show, so you have to take everything I say with a Yamaha Blue Crew grain of salt. And if you are smart, you would just go buy a T7 right now. Actually, I hear they're hard to get again. So, and everybody's asking me, what's the new T7 going to be? I don't know. Last time they put a new computer screen on it, and there's definitely a T7 rally over in Europe, but I don't think we're going to see that here for a couple of reasons. But anyways, Dimitri is back, even though I don't think we answered his first question about the thing. But he says, suspension setup advice request. I can do that. 9 out of 10 questions are answered without referring to a reference manual. And if I can't answer them, I will talk to somebody. I will call somebody. I will find somebody to explain this stuff for me. The bike is set up for hard enduro, so compression circuit is very soft. And he's talking about a KTM 300 right now. But sometimes I get bucked off hard from the shock bottoming out, going full tilt up a steep grade, and then hitting a bump. The spring rate is right and sags at 105 millimeters. Okay, he says he has a TX 300, which indicates it's a Husky. Catches me by surprise. Do I need to learn a ride around this? The TPI bike is a 22 150 XC and fueling is stock. I didn't mess with the motor. Being a 150, it gets to see red line quite often. Got so pissed with it, I went and got a 218 carbureted 300. Okay, so we're getting caught back up. He'd asked about, like, he had some crankcase pressure sensors issues, and so I didn't know that he was talking about a 150. I know the 150s tend to be a little bit more problematic with that kind of stuff, but yeah. He said he didn't mess with the motor. So I think that if your bike is doing a lot of one thing, you've got to test that thing when you take it out. So you've got to hook it up to a thing or swap it out with someone else's bike who you know that it's working, and put yours in there and see if the problem is recreated, because you may have something else in your bike. Because we've had bikes that have been, we'll call them like lemons. Let's just say I had a lemon bike. Then I have had these over the years. I always go try to find someone with the same bike, and then we start part swapping and see if the condition stays the same. And often it isn't what you think. It's something in between. It's the ECU that's talking to the crankcase pressure sensor, or there's a wire in there that's nicked, and it's causing it to short or give you bad readings. So Little things like this. Sometimes it's really tough. You got to find that other bike. But okay, so back to the suspension setup. I'm going to tell you that. Let's see. So he's so what is it? Is your bike an XCW or is it a linkage? Because if you get bucked off hard from the shock bottoming out, so you're hitting something. I always like to blame the rider when you're getting bucked off. I'm going to blame the rider because is there another rider that can ride over the same obstacle without getting bucked off? Because before I go and blame suspension, and yeah, bottoming out is part of what a dirt bike does and how it controls it. And I'll get to the technical part of that. But I would guarantee you that part of the reason you're bottoming out is because of two things: your approach speed being incorrect, generally too high, and your body position being such that it's causing the bike to pivot in a bad way. In other words, you're not getting your body where it needs to be to kind of counteract what's happening. So you're driving the bike through its shock stroke as opposed to putting yourself in a position so that you can use the shock stroke to then, give you that extra traction or whatever you need to get over that obstacle. So I like to blame the rider first. Then if we actually go into the technical, like what's wrong, if it's a PDS bike specifically, the bumper on the shock is critical. So that's that rubber donut that sits on the shock shaft. I have seen people replace those with ones that are more durable, that also are more springy, and they're too springy. They don't compress, or I mean they when they compress, they really rebound out kind of fast. So it gives the shock like a jump start from that bottoming position to go out. So make sure that hasn't been replaced or quote upgraded. We used to, like in the early days of PDS, we actually would cut two of those. So the bottom part was one kind and the top part was another to get the right type of feel off of that. So that's the number one thing when you start talking about bottoming out. And then also sometimes when guys, revalve shocks, they want to get a certain kind of a feel, and maybe something has been done to what we'll call the high speed rebound dampening. Because at that end, when that thing's completely compressed and and then it springs back, especially with the help of that bumper, you're kind of into that high speed rebound, and if it doesn't kind of kick in and slow it down, it really basically makes it too springy. And again, on the KTM PDS bikes specifically, to give it the plush and compliant feel, a lot of times, because the rebound does affect the compression on a lot of stuff, I've seen guys kind of go a little bit overboard, and then you end up with the sensation that you are talking about. So, yep, I was right about the T7 disc. They turned down the right side to turn it into a single disc. And then I'm getting corrected again on my Zech-E. Okay, got it, Jerry. Is your picture? Hey, by the way, I got a really nice gift today. Another really nice gift. A friend of mine that's helping out at the. Look at that, Mark. That's going to make you a little jealous. That's the Milagro Exter Anejo, which I'm sure gets bad reviews. On the is it extra? No, it's Select Barrel Reserve. It's not Extra Anejo, it's just regular Anejo. But look at the light on that thing. Sweet. So thanks, Doug, for that. Everybody wonders how I get really nice tequila, and that's because I have really nice friends. I think I'm going to save that to open it up on another show. Dirt Bike says, Jimmy, thanks for your input. I knew you were the right guy with how much time you spent wrenching on the 525s. This is a project bike, but it appears I needed a full rebuild at this point. Or you can just buy the one that I have in my garage. I have a really cherry, I think it's an 02 525. It's a 525 X, is what are they called? MXC. So it's the desert racing version. So, ready to part with that thing. I need to sell stuff so I don't go bankrupt. I got to pay some credit card bills and buy a Husaberg. I didn't say that out loud. My wife thinks we already own it. Gregory Edinger says, hold on. Husaberg talk. My dual sport Beta 390 came with a 15 tooth front, 52 tooth rear. I installed a 13 tooth front. Now the axle is farther back. Should I take two links out to retain the same geometry? Gregory, that's a good question. It depends on how you like the bike to handle. So and I'm trying to think, since it's two, if you take two, is it going to move the axle back because the diameter of the sprocket is smaller? I'm going through some crazy stuff in my head, but so you can do that, but it's kind of what, how do you want the bike to handle? Did it feel like it got more stable when you went to the, pulling the wheel back, or did it kind of make the bike feel lazy? These kind of things. So, and then, don't be afraid to, also play with the, spring preload a little bit, to play with the, the fork ride height. You can do all these different things, maybe if you don't want to take those two links out of the chain. And then also between a 15 and a 13 tooth, it does change the way that the coming on the power affects the way the bike squats and how much torque that has. So like if you're, when you see people kind of like they're gonna land off of a jump and they kind of get on the gas to stiffen the suspension, or the way that the suspension stiffens when you kind of go through hoops. All these things are affected by that. That's why a lot of times for a while we saw people running, when they were able to, bigger sprockets on bikes, like in Supercross specifically for hoops. They were actually running. They were trying to run larger chain wheels to there was a lot of reasons for it, but mostly it was talked about for handling. I don't know if they were also at the same time trying to take some load off the transmission and different things like that. Play around with it and see, if for sure the gearing's going to have a little bit of effect on the way that the bike feels like it handles, but also, and I've never been a big fan of, and it kind of depends on the kind of riding you're doing. I've never been a big fan of the 13 tooth front. I actually typically like the 14 tooth. And even when I kind of wanted to go to the 13 tooth for the lower gearing, there was a point where it's like, I'm going to go a little bit bigger on the rear to try to be able to keep that 14 up. And on some bikes, it was actually problematic because it would start wearing down the chain pad quite quickly in the front. I mean, I think we even ran 12s on KTMs for some really, really gnarly stuff. And that was really bad on the swing arm. In fact, I think it didn't take too long for it to cut down into the, into the swing arm, into the bearing. So, okay. Dirt bike is got a completely different topic. We can answer this. Again, thanks to Klim. I want to talk about one Klim product here. So they have a jersey. So they have there's the Mojave and the Dakar jersey. And then they have this jersey that's like this ballistic, and it's funny because it was on the tip of my tongue and I was going to say the name of it. It's like a heavy duty netting, and it's called, it's not the Aggressor, because the Aggressor is the undershirt, which I usually wear under this jersey. It is somebody help me out here. I'm going to have to go to the damn website right now I'm going to go to klim.com. You think I'm smart and I know everything. Sometimes I have to do research. Here we go. I'm going to the motorcycle section. I'm going to the off-road, climb.com. I'm going to off-road. And by the way, be really careful when you start seeing these ads for really cheap stuff on the internets. There's a lot of scams. They do. There's a lot of companies, but Climb seems like they get a lot of kind of spamming. Make sure if you're going to go to climb.com. So right now I'm in the off-road section and I'm trying to find the jersey. Let's see. It wants to know my gender. Men and jersey. Got it. That should, where is it? The Tactical Pro jersey. There it is. So a lot of times, especially right now, because we're having such nice weather, I want the protection kind of a jacket, but I want to have, some venting and not the weight of a jacket. These jerseys are like ballistic. I actually helped when they're developing these things, and they've gotten so much better than the first ones because they've got some different paneling on the shoulders and the way that they flex. It's like you're wearing something that's super protective. It doesn't have really pads in it, but it just made of stuff that's not going to tear. So if you get a punji stick or something like that sent at you, it will deflect it. So right, Mark, tactical jerseys. Thank you. Got it. And then the fishnet stockings that I always pair it with. Victor, thanks for bringing that up. You had to let everybody know. So I checked the man box, bro. Okay. Just enjoying my Gibson's Finest with a little bit of Coke on top. Let's see. We have a lot of questions in our, let's see. It's in our YouTube channel, and why can't I get that thing to load up? Here we go. So, like I said earlier, when you guys are, watching the videos, if you leave comments in the videos, we kind of get back to them and answer most of them. At least I do. Trevor just ignores all you guys. He thinks he's the best video guy, and he likes to tell me how many views his videos get and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, I still have the one that has 3 million views. So, and I see we've got a couple new things on my list here. I haven't broke the internet yet. We haven't dropping too many frames. Let's see. Here's the comments from the community. And let's see. I went way back down and there was a couple good ones in here. We'll see where they were. So somebody says best podcast ever. And it's a show that Jerry Bernardo was on. So I think he will be very happy about that. Where the heck was it? Someone's asking us what video resolution we use. And then people are saying, does anybody else have any problem loading the video? Just check your internet connection. Here's the one. So a guy on my CD boot review said he fell over and his bike fell on his foot. And he wants to know if that hard sole would have stopped that. And I have no way of knowing that because, what part of the bike fell on it, how heavy was the bike, all of those kind of things. So, I mean, yeah, having a good boot, and the CD is the stiffest boot. And you think about it, like most soles, if the bike falls and it kind of lands on the sole, and let's imagine the bike being all the way put on the, if the foot's sideways and the sole's up there, it's going to have a hard time crushing it. But if the weight kind of goes above the sole or it kind of gets in there, at that point you're dealing with some other things. So, I mean, every situation is unique, but I will say that of all the boots I've worn, I feel that the CD is the most protective. The SRS specifically is the most protective one. They should sponsor this show. Correct. Okay. And And then next time, add the new Reju Adventuro 307 Rally. And then somebody else. These are about the KLX 300 versus CRF 300. The suspension is horrible on both Racetech. 250 solves the problem. Okay, you get better at typing. And we can answer them. And here's a guy. He says the point of them riding these stock was to see how the bikes would do. Pretty awesome considering both the terrain and the conditions, dedicated enduros they were up against, and finished in the top 10 at a dual sport ride. They finished in the top 10 at the dual sport ride. Fixing the suspension was not part of their plan. If it was their test purpose, then it would have been pointless. Yeah. So, yeah, and now you guys are they're getting in arguments about a video. So good on you. We like the impressions. The next question, there's a lot of guys arguing about the KLX 300 and CRF 300. I'm going to work on my XR 150 video, and if I took it to the Big Bear trail ride, I would overhaul the trail ride for sure, even though it's not a race. Let's see. A JI 3946 tells me on my AJP PR7 riding impression, ride a T7 for a month, then hop on the PR7 and see if you complain about the weight. Well, I do have a T7. I've ridden it for way more than a month, and I still do complain about the weight. So, yeah. Candy Sofax says, Jimmy always asking the guests questions and then cutting them off when they start to answer. See my guest? Yeah, now you understand. Okay. Let's see. The ISDE rules don't let you warm up your bike. I know this. I may have been to an ISDE or 4. This is kind of a pain with the KTM TPI. No, it's not. Every time I get on my KTM TPI bike, I pretend like I'm at 6 days. I start it up and usually I ride to the gate. So it's not an issue. It's an issue if you take the thermostat out, maybe. I don't know. Mine warms up just fine. My thermostat's in. Bike's pretty much stock. Let's see. What's our next one? Okay. There's a what? They're complaining. More people complaining about how we test motorcycles. Let's see. And then we have an RMX 250Z Suzuki off-road project bike, update number 2. And Carolina STR 4163 says, I currently have a 2017 350 SX set up for woods GNCC riding. Been wanting something new and was considering trading for a newer RMZ. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions on helping me make a decision? Well, since you are already riding a motocross bike off-road, so that's something I typically try not to do just because they make bikes that are better set up for this kind of stuff. So since you have that, going down to the 250, especially the Suzuki, and the Suzuki's actually for off-road, it's good because it's just good torquey bike. You're going from electric start to kick start. You're going from 350 to 250. I don't know if I can help you make that decision. I mean, if you're looking for something new, then now you got a yellow bike that's thing. Enjoyable video and a great ride. My Yamaha WR 250R is one of my favorite fun bikes to ride. All of them. I would have enjoyed seeing how you would do on this. Now thinking adding a CRF 300 to the stable after this video. It's all you need is another motorcycle. Take it from somebody who has way too many. And now they're arguing about how many speeds the bikes. On our KTM 390 modified adventure video, which tubes do you ride in the new rims? Because I basically, on that one, we took the mags off and we put spoked wheels on that we actually sourced off of one of the Husqvarna bikes. And then I had W lace me up a really nice set of wheels. And he says 2mm or 4mm tubes. Cool video. Well, thank you. I don't know how many millimeters the tubes are, but they're if I could just remember that brand, that tubes that I use, they used to help me out, but I forgot. Don't know what brand it is, but it's the mid-sized ones. So it's not the super big heavy ones, and it's not the light ones that come stock. It's one that's in between. So it's like a medium size tube. So the big ones tend to pinch. And if they're not perfectly sized, they kind of fold up, and then they pinch where they fold. So I'm always a little leery of the really, really heavy tubes. Okay. Toma 2814 says, great review, Jimmy. Twice participated in your off-road school and now subscribed to your channel. He's a big fan. Well, thank you. Yeah. I wish we could do schools some more, but anybody paid for insurance lately? Now they're telling us how to test bikes again. Get these bikes off MX tracks and onto desert or single track. And he's talking about our 2023 Gas EX450F first ride impression. Let's see. The bike will almost outperform the rider. I don't understand why people would doubt that those bikes aren't capable. This makes no sense to me. I guess I'm the only one. No, you're not the only one. Somebody wants to know what the music is on the Mega Bomb header. Well, I'll tell you what music it is. It's the music that got us copyright violations. So that's it. I think it's gone now. I think the music is now gone. Where's our next? Junk bikes on this channel. Thanks, you Brody. Yeah. He's talking about my live beta 300 rebuild. So if you have a few hours, you can go there. Next one, CS7474 says, dirt bike test, minus the dirt bike and minus the testing. He's talking about our SP Connect phone case test. So I don't know. Well, that's about a phone case, so maybe it is the bike, but we did do the testing. It clearly explains how much we use that in the thing. So I'm going to go here and check to see how we're doing on the question. On the questions. Hey, Jimmy, I saw you won that award. Very cool. You give a lot back to the sport. Thanks, Jesse. I do appreciate that. I mean, it's nice. Hello, my name is John Ross. Today is my birthday. I'm 36. Hi, John Ross. Happy birthday. And Jesse G says, I see some of the 2013 990 Baja editions for sale. What is the risk of buying a 990 as opposed to a used 790, 890? I heard the 79, 890 bikes have adventure or electrical issues. Is this true? So you haven't heard about the cam issues? Every bike, if you search enough, you will find they have issues. So the 2013 990 Baja was the best of that whole era of the 950, 990, especially the Baja ones, because they took some of the ABS stuff off. They actually lowered the bike a little bit, but the suspension didn't really suffer because of it. They did a good job with it. So I don't see any risk in buying that, except it's just a little bit older. You're starting to talk about a 10, 12-year-old bike now. But It kind of depends on the used, what the market price is, and what you think like it's worth. There's definitely a big difference in ride character, and I honestly think that the 990 Baja is yes, I'm going to say for me, it's a better bike than the 790, 890. I've never been a big 790, 890 fan. They're harsh. I mean, they're not really comfortable, and there's so many modes in the computers and stuff like that. And it's just like, seems like I'm always fiddling with it, and I never was super happy with the kind of power setting I could get. I did it mostly on a 790, tried it a little bit on the 890, but it was almost like I don't know where that bike, and I've been critical of certain bikes, and that one. I mean, not to say that if you're going to ride your adventure bike aggressively and you really want to ride it aggressively, then it's a great bike. But if you're using your adventure bike for adventure biking, I think there's better options, and that 990 is actually a really good one. But I don't think that the 790, 890 has electrical issues. I don't think they have any issues. There was some cams that went bad, and there was a little bit of that kind of got hot for a little while, but it seems to have gone away. Maybe it made the company go bankrupt. I don't know. So, and Mark Daniels disagrees with me. He says the 2007 990 Adventure had the best suspension, travel, and no ABS. So, okay, I can't remember. There's too many years. Because I have a 2002. I should probably sell that. I have the very first KTM 950 that ever came in the country. It was Cycle World Magazine's long-term test bike, and I ended up buying it. And I'm in a bike selling mood right now. So hit me up on the whatever social media platform that you can find, and I might be there to answer your questions. Sell bike. Let's see. Great review. He's talking about our Gas 300 EX first impression. I'm thinking of trying a Gas for my next bike. On a 250 XC now, and the suspension on the EX bike sounds like it would be better fit for my riding. Had to revalve the XC to get enough compliance for the techie stuff. Is that this place in the background? I'm not going to tell you where that is in the background, because I never tell you where we're riding and testing bikes. But so I have not ridden that bike yet. I do know that the gases have slightly, or they're supposed to have slightly different suspension settings than the KTM's and the Husqvarna's. It's actually sometimes a price down type of thing. Sometimes the Huskies come with a couple extra components on the shock, like the preload adjusters and stuff like that. But most riders, if they play in my go-to is make sure you play around with the suspension a bunch before you just send it off to get it revalved. Take the time. And here's someone that's going to talk about it. They're going to tell us what to do here on that same test. He says, try 100 millimeters rear race sag. You'll thank me. Gas recommends 105 for the 250 and 100 for the 300. And that will get rid of the bike wanting to climb out of the rut on the uphill you're on. Power is the reason for the sag difference. The 300 wants to push more. I've got a new 24 250 for 6,500 out the door. Yeah, he scored. That's a good deal. I think the reason it was climbing out of the rut is because the rider on the bike sucked. That's just what I do. And then BPW 334 says, I just bought a 24 EX 250 and by far one of the best bikes I've ever owned. So there we go. I've had several 300s and pretty amazed how much you can still lug this 250. Overall, just a great, friendly, and forgiving machine. Very user-friendly. Lots of great deals out there now, too. Let's hope Gas sticks around and KTM gets their SH blank T together this year. I think it's going to take them a few years to get their billions of dollars back together, but I don't think they're going anyplace. And then Adam Coffee 828 says, it's a KTM with red plastic. Am I right? A real gas is now called a reju. Let's see. No, it's not a KTM with red plastic. It's a gas. It's the new gas, which is just a KTM with red plastic. There's different stuff in there. Enough to I have no idea why. I know why they did gas, and it had nothing to do with them wanting to have red bikes. So let's see. We're talking about master links versus rivet chains. And Eric RP One High says, I've had master links come off of since the 70s as a kid. I use them and carry a spare. Out of the blue, one came off in a desert race out at Red Mountain, and I had to get a super nice racer to stop and give me his. I did spend some time driving around the pits to return the favor. But I did buy a rivet style plus the install tool for my new Cross Nation 701 Husky. It came with one that is a sign that 75 horsepower needs them. Let's see, I went to 48 to 46 rear sprocket. The big benefit also, besides the cruising crushed head, is the pin to link plate interface fit very strong. Okay. I'm not sure why I read all that. I don't know what I learned. I learned from that. I think when we talk about in that little thing, I think when we talk about that stuff, we kind of clearly explain, like, I don't remember. I think it was me and Johnny Campbell that were having that discussion. And, yeah, it was sort of trying to figure out, like they both have advantages and disadvantages like anything else. Let's see. We have the do's and don'ts of bringing tools on your ride. It says, when dirt bikes were basic, baling wire could sub for a master link, duct tape could fix a fuel line leak, and a Zippo lighter provided the spare parts to fix everything else. Okay. John Kling. Let's see. Great video, but working on a bike in flip-flops, says Dune ATV. Okay. Let's see. The next thing, and people are trying to tell me where the AJP PR7 motor came from. Well, it's a knockoff of the Husky TE 510, 610, something like that. Yeah, it's the Italian Husky motor, which is now being produced someplace in Asia. Let's see. Other bikes. Hey guys, I know it's a comment after 1 year and it's about turning a bike into a supermoto. Okay, that's why we won't read it. Let's see. More guys arguing. Great test. Talking about our 2025 Honda CRF 250 RX and the CRF 450 RX Impression. Somewhat disappointed that they use a tank like that in 2025. I personally wouldn't call 37 horsepower 250 four-stroke disappointing. Maybe a quick spin on an XR 250 would make for a good reminder. You just dated yourself, Super Disco 199. Let's see. Yeah, now they're arguing about which year, which bike weighs what, all of those kind of things. Let's see. And now someone else, man, they're complaining about the fuel tank shape on the Honda. So I agree. It's a little bit bulbous. It's a little bit bigger, but I think Honda has a slightly different durability standard. You know, they want to have a certain amount of airflow through the radiators and a couple other things that you probably don't take into consideration. And companies like, IMS or Chirby's also can kind of skim through. But it's things like this that do make a little bit of a difference. Here we go again, and still have the same crappy MX gearbox instead of a wide ratio version suitable to off-road riding. Honda just being cheap skates again. Well, George Edwards 8901. So here's the thing. They do a lot of market research, and they figure out like, hey, and for sure there's like, yeah, we can put the same gearbox in and get some cost savings and stuff like that. But they look at the range of where, what speeds people are riding and what people are doing with these bikes, and they go, okay, this will work. I think that, that's one of the advantages of the Austrian brands and brands like Beta and stuff. They do actually kind of tailor the gearbox a little bit more, so the bike might have more range as far as, ability to go slower and faster. But if you do what most people do with these bikes, which is race kind of like Grand Prix and that type of stuff, those gaps in the wide ratio, hence the name, are problematic. I prefer the wide ratio. I don't even mind it when I'm racing like on a motocross based Grand Prix course. But most riders will start feeling those gaps, and they'll complain just as much about that. So they make other bikes for that. That's what the CRF 450X is actually for. And Handonerator says, it didn't sound like some totally paid ad at all, mate. Good job on you guys. Well, thank you. And then here we go. When is Honda going to come out with a real Enduro 300 two-stroke 6-speed? And just like Brian H. says, never. Let's see. What else was... let's see. Need some sand testing on the 450RX. Still looking for a new dune and sand trail bike. Any 450 MX works on dunes, and 20 KTM 350 XCF works good on the sand trails, but not enough grunt for open sand hills. So Ultra SS wants us to do some sand dune testing. Okay. Here's Riders Oregon asks a question in our Chris Reel Tech Talk. What fork damping setup compared to motocross helps with deflection when hitting unseen embedded rock at speed with no steering stabilizer? Well, that's a double-edged sword of a question. Riders.Oregon 4474, and I'll tell you why. Because it could be two things. I could go, you know what? It's just basic. Open up the compression, soften the compression, and that's going to make this better. But that may not be the case, because you may already be soft, and the reason it's harsh and deflecting is because it's what we call packing. It's down in the stroke. It's in a stiffer part of the stroke, a little bit more reluctant to move. So at that point, actually stiffening up the fork may make it deflect less. And how do you know which one you're at? Most of the time, motocross stuff is sprung and valved stiffer than off-road. So it'd be a safe bet to say, yeah, you'd want to soften it up. But you just never know on the situation. Something as simple as kind of adjusting the ride height of the bike. So maybe going to a little less sag, so a little taller rear end will put more weight on the fork and allow it to work better. And the opposite could be true. You could go lower, let the rear end go down a little bit. And this will give the bike kind of a little bit more inherent stability. And generally it angles the fork so that the force it's easier for it to push on it. So there's all kinds of stuff. How do you know? You test it. You give some of this stuff a try. You find a section that you're unhappy with where it's working, and then you try a couple of these things. And I would just start with just doing basic clicks and see where that goes. Okay. Any other questions over on the thing? Utah Desert Racer says, weird questions tonight? Yes. Weird. Now, they're just the same old questions that we always get. Chris Needle, spelled funny, says, do you ever figure out what that noise from your 500 was? Yes, I know exactly what it was. It was piston slap. So it's all back together. The bike has like 2,000 more miles on it now because I did a Peninsula run, bonus Peninsula run, plus more Peninsula run, scouting for the Nora Mexican 1000, which, by the way, we're going to do a Zoom meeting pretty soon, talk about the course and talk about our limit on riders and why you'd better sign up soon if you want to do that. But yeah, it was piston slap. Interestingly, and I did this on purpose, I didn't touch the cylinder head. I just took it off, examined it, threw it right back on. And the bike was, I don't want to call it made puffs of smoke, especially like sometimes when it started up and everything. And I was interested to see how much of that was the rings and how much of that was the valve guide seals. And it was mostly the valve guide seals. So I was getting the noise from the piston, and my small, ever so slight oil consumption is a direct result of the valve guide seals. And so how much does it use? Let's see, because each day we were going through about seven gallons of gas. It was about 200 cc's for 7 gallons of gas. That's kind of what we were running. Victor Andrade says, do you think Yamaha is going to bring the Fantic XC300 or equivalent to the USA? No. Yamaha, and so Fantic is a French brand that uses Yamaha parts, a lot of Yamaha parts to build their motorcycles, and I don't think you will see that in the USA. Do I think Yamaha is up to something? Again, bike news here. Yes, I'm guessing. I think I honestly believe that they're taking a hard look at a 350 4-stroke, and they're taking a hard look at an updated 2-stroke. Whether they have took a hard look at it 3 years ago and they're really close to doing this, or they're going to start taking it really serious right now, hard to say, but just judging by some of their current hires on the off-road side, maybe. You never know. And then it's good to see you too, Utah Desert Rider. Mike Kamet says, keep looking for insurance for your classes. Go beyond normal agents. Hope it works. I recently got some flood insurance outside the government plans. Better coverage and cheaper too. Cheers. Yeah, I'm looking at some different options. So there's ways to do it, but it kind of depends on whether I really want to make money or not. I could work to pay my insurance, and I don't really want to do that. So we'll see how it works out. Okay, back to the YouTube questions. Kawasaki KX250X, the 2025 model. Why do they put the enduro on a motocross track? It's supposed to be for slow technical enduro stuff. Let's see it in a boulder field and rock hill climbs. No, these are race bikes. John Helms 721. They're kind of, so when the brands, now this XC that kind of KTM sort of pioneered this, we're going to take our motocross bike and we're going to slightly modify it so that it's better for off-road racing. Now, Honda has one, Kawasaki has one, Yamaha has one, and they're all a little bit different. Actually, I should have told the guys that are complaining about the transmission, if you want a good transmission, Yamaha on the FX, Yamaha and KTM are the ones, and specifically Yamaha, really, if you want, KTM goes with the 6-speed on their smaller displacement ones. If you want to ride a really good 5-speed, the Yamaha FX transmissions are perfect. They almost don't need to go to a 6-speed. That's how good they are. And I really, really like 6 speeds. So Yamaha, sponsor of this show, as well as Klim. We have some other, we'll call them technical partners. I'm going to go hit these guys up for some money. Takamoto, Scott Sports, DDC, Trail Tech, Fast Company, Bulletproof Designs, Double Take Mirrors, all on board helping out this show. You see their logos flipping up across the screen in the background. When you call those companies, tell them they should support this show when you're buying it, or say that the only reason you knew about their company is because I talked about them. I mean, I said the name once, right? Davey4818 says, that was a brilliant review. He's talking about our 2023 450 off-road comparison. Covered the main. I'll certainly tune into this channel. Well, thank you, Davey. Wish we could do more videos, but they're hard to do, and we take a lot of time. Do this again with the 2025 models next year, says the Frog 767. Well, they're not going to change those models, so we don't need to do it again. Those models, and that's not the 450. He's talking about some of the 300s that we were talking about. Let's see. Our Beta 300 RR review says they have it at 41 horsepower peak and the KTM 2024 XC at 55. Do you believe there's that much of a peak difference? Says Knight Rider 4370. No. So we did, and that, did we actually ever do the video review or the test on both bikes? I don't recall, but there's not that much of a difference. I think the Beta actually makes more. And so it depends on where they're taking their measurement from and how they are, KTM 55, 2024 KTM XC300. Yeah, it's probably doing 55, I would guess. Let's see. Somebody's checking our math. It's probably okay. Let's see. Do you think they should make a 200 two-stroke for the new Enduro version? Said David Sweet 2995. And we're talking about a Yamaha YZ125X. No, I don't think they're going to make a 200 version. But he says, I feel like a lot more people who ride mostly Enduro or only Enduro would choose it over a YZ125X or a 250X. And I think you're right. And I'm one of the people that's a little disappointed that KTM got out of the 200 cc game. But I will tell you, Beta makes one, and they nailed it. That motor in the Beta is, frankly, I spent a lot of years racing a KTM 200, and I had KDX 200s, and I love 200s. I always tried to get my bike to run exactly the way the Beta comes box stock. They nailed the power band on that, at least for me. So it's torquey, but then it revs and pulls. It feels like a 250 when you're lugging, and then it feels like a really light, I don't know what, because it doesn't make 250 power, but it pulls pretty good, and it's so agile. That's what's really awesome about a 200 in general. On our 2023 Yamaha WR450 test, David Corman 846, really nice bike. Got the same configuration with an FMF slip-on. Would you mind sharing what's your best map? Aggressive and smooth. Thanks a lot. That would help me, not being a technical expert with the fuel and things. So what I'm going to type to him is send us an email. And I can, with the Yamaha Power Tuner app, just send you the maps right away. So that's how easy it is. Just get me your email, and I will email you a map, and you put it in your thing, and you go boop, and then that's how long it would take to get into your WR. And I'm not just sending you one map; I'll send you 3 or 4, and you can try them out, because it's and then it's so easy to change if you wanted to do it. But we can do this. So I can send you the maps. I type it like 22 words a minute, because I used to be an editor, by the way. Okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I saw this. Hey, yeah, honey, Hank, and money, honey, 16K applied to the outside of the body may burn for a moment, then soothingly stop. This is what you get now with AI. You get a donut effect healing from the inside of the outside, toilet paper to dab, creating a natural bandage. I'm hoping that AI is using my voice right now to create this. Actually, I'm probably going to get AI to do this show for me. So anyways, great job. I'm getting my 300L tomorrow after settling my CRF 250L, hoping we'll have just a little more power I missed after my YZ250F. I would love to see the XT250 on the track footage. Is there any posted? Well, yeah, I think you're asking a lot there. So those are our questions on the YouTubes. Let's see. There's no way any KTM 300 makes 55 horsepower, max 45. Yeah, I don't really ride dynos that much, so I can't tell you the numbers. I bet you the 300s are 50 horsepower. I would guess. But maybe I've just I got a loose dyno up my ass and I'm just making it up. But I don't know. I mean, the 450s are up in the 60s, and the 300s maybe it's not. 300s definitely make a lot of torque, and that's kind of what you really feel. It's hard to feel horsepower, and so you kind of feel torque, and then you hear the noise. So Mike Kmet says 200s are great. I rode a KTM 125 EXC way back when you raced one. That'd be me. I used to say, make it a 175 and a little more flywheel, and it would rock. A 200 even better. That was good about my KTM 125s is they had a heavy flywheel, and so when you got them revving, they were pretty good. But boy, when I got a KTM 200 when they started, the first one I rode was actually the Penton. It was the they did a throwback, and it was a Penton blue and white thing. I rode it at Cycle World magazine, and that was a really nice bike. Actually, I got to see Jack Penton at the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame. So if you show up there, it's a free event. You're gonna have to wait till next year, but if you show up and you go there, you get to meet a lot of off-road riding and racing, even road racing and flat track and speedway legends. Brad Oxley was there. Brad Oxley, one of my buddies, promotes the Costa Mesa Speedway, which I want to go back and do the Knobby Night or the Mini Bike Demolition Derby again this year. Now that I'm not doing schools, maybe I'll have more time to attend some of these events. So Rider S Oregon had a 7-speed bike way back in the day. It was a 175 Hercules. How many of those are the neutrals are you counting, or do you really have a 9-speed? Because that's pretty good. The next question, Google says 47 and 55 horsepower. I believe everything Google says. Man with Gun says, Jimmy, do you cut your handlebars? Is it just personal preference, or do you believe different disciplines and body sizes could benefit from narrower bars? Cheers. So I actually don't cut my bars. When I was racing back east more, I did cut my bars. The man who cut his bars the most was probably Scott Summers. I think he was down. Again, numbers elude me, but I want to say he was like close to 26 inches. Crazy, 26, 28 or something. It was really narrow. And, but he was also riding, his foot pegs were probably wider than his handlebars. I don't know. But so it's definitely personal preference. It is, and it kind of depends on how much room you need for your stuff. Like, certain bars are kind of wide where they start sweeping up, and so it's not going to leave you enough room to get your brake. And, especially if you have a bike that has like some instruments like turn signals or, start stop switch, that they have all this stuff now. You might be compromised on space that way. And the, so there's stuff like that. I run Fast Company Flex handlebars. And so you're already kind of like, because they have a piece that pivoted, you're always kind of a little bit limited there. But I run their standard width, which I'm trying to think is like 31 something is the width. And then there's weird ways you can measure it. You measure it from the front or the back and a couple other stuff. But, if you're running hand guards, is there places that, to still mount all the stuff as needed? And then of course, it is going to, based on how wide your shoulders are and where your hands naturally sit and whether your arms are long or short, all these things can play into that. I mean, I'm very picky about my handlebars. I'm picky about bar height, and then sweep, all the different things. So it's kind of like I said, it is definitely a personal preference. But when you're racing between trees and things that are going to catch in the end of them, a little bit more narrow can definitely be an advantage. Out in the desert, whacking the bushes isn't too much of a deal. We're back to the Hercules. It shifted good, but the Hercules could barely pull 7th. Pretty much a downhill only, or with a wind behind his back. Yeah. That's the way I used to gear my desert bikes. So that when I had the 6 speeds, 6th gear was downhill. It was downhill, and maybe on a flat with not much drag, it might pull it. But usually it would go faster in 5th on any sort of like in sand or soft dirt and stuff like that. But that was a desert racing bike only. And yeah, it was advantageous because when I had the chance to really let her eat going down a valley, and this was back in the day when I could pass guys on 500s in a valley because suspension sucked. You could have all the power in the world and you couldn't keep it on the ground or keep your body on the bike if you're, back then the chassis were a little bit flexy and stuff. And so the power was actually a disadvantage. So I could just keep my little bike taped and it would track and it would pull. And that's how you pass guys. Well, they claimed they needed all that power and I was using every bit of power I had, and it was enough power to make my bike go faster than their bike. However that worked, I don't know. So enough of that. I think we're getting to the end of the end of the questions section. I was gonna put all my bikes that I have for sale in Rooster Endo. So if you would like to have a bike featured on a Rooster Endo, you got to email me. Year, make, and model. Tell me about your modifications that you've done. Send a nice picture. Send it to Jimmy, my name, at Dirt Bike Test. We will put on there. The Rooster Endo is brought to you by Takomoto. That's takomoto.co. They typically give us a $100 gift certificate for the bike that brings us the most enjoyment in that. So what else do we have going on? I have a XR150 test I'm working on. I have 2 youngsters riding our Yamaha TTR 50 who appeared on the show about 3 episodes ago, and our TTR 90. They are going to do all of the testing for those things. So be prepared for some good videos. They do look like smaller versions of Trevor Hunter, so they're probably going to replace that guy pretty soon. We taught somebody to ride today out here. A friend of mine's wife, Wayne's girlfriend, came out. Kathy came out and rode the TTR 125 and the XR 150. So we compared how they were for total novice. Never rode her own bike before. So it was pretty cool to do some of that testing. What other stuff do we have? Trevor has some gases. He's been racing some Kawasaki's. I want to get the Triumph 250 that we've been long-terming out here and tear into that motor and take a look at that. So that's what we got going on. If you have questions that you want me to ask of people at the AIM Expo, something I need to find out, dig in, investigate, let me know. Throw it up in the chat right away before I shut this thing down. And Google says the Beta 300 has 39 horsepower. There's no way JTM makes 10 horsepower more, 10 more horsepower. JTM, Jimmy's JTM is my butt dyno. KTM, that's what he's meant to say. Makes 10 more horsepower. That's why you believe. That's why you want to believe Google. Just Google it. So why do we even need this show? Actually, they're going to do something at the AIM Expo where they're going to say how all the fix-it videos, the how-tos on the YouTubes are bad for dealers, which I can see a plus and a minus to that. So we'll see. I might attend that synopsis as the owner of a content that we